Hello and welcome to Gin with Gwyn. I'm Oliver Gwyn, and this is where I give you my unrehearsed and off-the-cuff thoughts on marketing, data, and philosophy. This week, I'm going to be talking about two things I hate. One is mixed media modeling, and the second is the central line. What is mixed media modeling? Well, if you are a marketer, it's supposed to answer something very fundamental, which is what is working and how much is it working. If you are running posters, radio adverts, TV adverts, you don't necessarily have the same understanding of what's working as your online advertising, where you can monitor clicks and conversions and you can track that journey. And while that might not be perfect, it gives you much more of an answer than anything in real life. But my problem with mixed media modeling is that it's often way too simple. I think the numbers inside the model can often be inflated because it is primarily a tool used by advertising agencies so that they can say, hey, look how many people you've reached and this is the uplift and all this kind of stuff. And that's the reason why I don't really believe in mixed media modeling. I think that even the most robust model in the world will be slightly overinflated, and I think there are much easier and less costly ways of tracking your advertising. And I wanted to go through with you today a real life example so we could see the difference between what advertisers sell to you versus the reality. So the example I want to use today is Well Woman. It's a vitamin supplement brand in the UK, and as the name suggests, it's advertised towards women. And I'm going to be focusing on the central line because I was able to find quite a lot of stats on that, and I hate the central line. It's terrible. That has nothing to do with this. I just thought I'd mention it. In fact, I actually wrote a song about how I hate the central line, which I will put somewhere. So if you want to advertise on the tube today, you will see on any of the sites that they tell you facts like 5 million passengers every single day will see your tube adverts. Commuters spend 47 minutes traveling across the tube, and up to 150,000 commuters see tube advertising every single hour. Wow, 150,000 people, that's amazing. This is definitely going to be worth it because London is, higher median age. I'm going to reach loads of people. There's also tourists there. So I'm not just reaching people in London, I'm reaching people across the UK. But let's start to do some maths, and I'm going to put the maths up here. Hopefully we can all follow this. This is very heuristic maths. It's very bad maths, but let's try and figure out how many people will see, remember, and act on a Well Woman ad. So a central line train can carry a total of 892 passengers per ride. And there are typically 78 rides per day on a weekday. So Monday to Friday. That's maximum capacity. So the maximum number of people in a day, in theory, is 69,576 people in one day. And maybe heuristically, we would say 10% of people will see your ad, and you've got 66,942 people who've seen it, right? And that sounds quite good. But let's just dig into that a little bit more, because we all know that real life doesn't quite work like that. The central line operates typically about 18 hours a day, and it is a terrible line, which is way too full of people. And on the peak traveling hours, you are in there, crushed against somebody's face like this. And so during those 4 hours going and coming back from work, I don't believe that you can really see adverts unless you are just stuck like this and you have to look at it for your entire journey. And so I want to take away those 4 hours completely when the train is probably full. And I say for the other 14 hours that the train is running, it's probably about half capacity. It gets down a bit there. So instead of 892 people per journey, we're now looking at about 445 people. Obviously, some will be lower than that, some will be higher, but I'm going to just average that out. Very easy maths at 445 people per trip. So again, we times that. We're going to times that by the 78 journeys anyway, and we'll get to 34,710. Now, about 20% of people remember an advert, and we're hit by so many adverts a day. That's according to the drum. So 20% of our 34,000, we're now down to 6,942 people who will see the advert and remember it. And we're talking about Well Woman here. The clue is in the title. We've split our demographics in half. I did find that actually it's about 60-40 split, apparently 60% men, 40% women. But for the ease of maths, let's just do 50-50. So we're now down to 3,471. And Well Women is typically aimed at women over 50. But I couldn't find many stats on that. But I did find on tubeadverts.com that apparently 64% of passengers are classed as ABC1 adults and 20% of them are aged 15 to 34. ABC1 is the people who have money, and C2DE is the people who don't have money, basically. So most advertisers are aiming at ABC1 people. So if we take that 20% of people away, because Well Women is aimed at an older demographic, and we look at the 64% of people, it's 51%, but let's just say it's half again. So we're now down to 1,734 and a half people who have seen the advert and remembered it. But how many of those are in your category? In 2022, apparently about 38% of Brits took vitamins, minerals, or supplements daily. And 38% of our 1,000 number gets us down to 659. 659, right? That's a lot lower than the 150,000 people per hour. No, okay, I'm only talking about the central line on one day, and 659 people is still quite a lot of people. But we're talking about Monday to Friday here. Quite probably the same people will be commuting regularly. Maybe that number will be a little bit higher, maybe 1,000 people a day, but only 1,000 people on that line. And so the real number will be a lot lower than any mixed media modeling you're likely to get, who will look at the amount of journeys and all this kind of things and will tell you that, thousands of people are seeing and remembering and acting on your advert. The problem with mixed media modeling is it's trying to cram everything into this quite outdated regression models, and it assumes that media impacts sales in a nice linear way, and it just doesn't work like that. It kind of assumes that correlation equals causation. Did your sales go up because of your marketing spend, or was it, seasonal spike, viral trend, competitor going out stock? Mixed media modeling never knows those things, and I never think we should be modeling all those things because it's nearly impossible. But it doesn't know those things, but it kind of pretends that it does. Marketers tweak the models to prove that their work is working. Advertisers are definitely not going to give you the 659 people saw and acted and are the right audience on your ad if you're then spending thousands on the central line to advertise that. And so they can tweak the parameters to suit them, so you spend more money with them, and it's all a little bit smoke and mirrors. Now, we've just sort of proven that with our own heuristics, but I do have a few examples for you. So in 2017, eBay made a bold move by cutting $100 million from its digital advertising budget after a detailed analysis revealed that its mixed media modeling had drastically overstated the impact of paid search. For years, the model had suggested that bidding on brand-related search terms was driving significant incremental value. However, when eBay conducted real-world experiments turning off those paid ads campaigns, they found that the traffic and sales remained virtually unchanged. And in 2021, similarly, Airbnb did the same thing. They slashed billions from its digital advertising budgets after realizing that its mixed media modeling had significantly overstated the role of paid marketing in driving bookings. The company had long invested heavily into performance marketing, believing it was essential for customer acquisition. However, they drastically reduced their ad spend, expecting a corresponding drop in bookings, but nothing changed. Customers continued to find and book accommodations at the same rate. This exposed a major flaw in the MMM model, which had been attributing too much credit to digital ads while ignoring the power of organic brand awareness and word of mouth. The revelation forced Airbnb to rethink their entire marketing strategy, shifting focus towards brand building efforts. And obviously, eBay and Airbnb have huge data teams, and they have huge budgets, and they have the most reason in the world to get their mixed media modeling right. I really want to hone that in. They've got the money to get it right. And if they are finding this, then what hope do the rest of us have? Well, Google has released, or it's now widely released, it was released last year, Google Meridian, which is an open source MMM tool and claims to offer better insights into mixed media modeling. And it's aimed at smaller companies so that everybody can have these kinds of insights. And marketers are pretty skeptical about it. Why would Google release a mixed media modeling when they have their own advertising platform? They do not do physical media. They do not do radio adverts. Is it going to tell you that Google is doing the best? Almost certainly. Google has done some interesting things with their attribution in the past. It's often changing, and they are kind of known for overstating the impact of their own ads. They released something called data-driven attribution, but they were very coy about what that actually entailed. It was supposed to be a model that showed you that which advertising were working the best, which media was working best, and it seemed to be doing really well. But then they released PMax, which advertises on everything, and that seemed to disrupt the model somewhat. Quite a lot of people found that if they were attributing, not using the data-driven, but they put first touch attribution on, that PMax was falsely claiming different campaigns as being successful on them. And recently this year, Google also updated their PMax to show you source, and there's been a lot of controversy that some of the sources were not aligned to the category or to the confines of the spend that marketers were doing that. So while they were maybe happy that things were converting, when they saw the sources, they were like, well, I told you not to put it there. So I think Google makes its money from advertising. That's one of its primary ways of making money. Mixed media modeling is flawed for me, and I'm not sure that we can necessarily trust them because they've got skin in the game. They have a reason to show you that, hey, Google is doing the best. So what should you do if mixed media modeling is not the thing? Well, I think eBay and Airbnb have shown us pretty perfectly. Measuring uplift is not that hard. Stop doing things. I know it's scary, but if you stop doing things and things should drop, it's not that difficult. You should have a baseline of data about how many clients you're converting, how many customers you're winning, all of this kind of thing, how much your sales are. And then you can track if it goes up and down. And that is the easiest and simplest ways that can be done in an Excel spreadsheet today to tell if what you are doing is working. Now you're thinking, Oliver, that doesn't necessarily solve my problem because I want to know which of my different platforms is working. And there is something about holistically that all of these different channels combine, especially if you are hitting people on multiple fronts. And I say, yes, I completely agree with you. But it is also not so difficult to turn off something for a short amount of time and test what the difference is on those things. That would be the simplest route to an answer. And sometimes an answer is better than the wrong answer that you've spent time and money and invested in data people to form. And those are my reasons behind not liking mixed media modeling. As I say, I think that the model is often not detailed enough. I think that the numbers that go into it are overinflated because it's often made by advertisers for advertisers. And I think while I wait to see and will judge Google Meridian once I've had time to play with it myself, I don't believe that that's necessarily a solution. I think that the simplest answer is often the best answer when it comes to advertising. And all marketers know that often you cannot put a gun to somebody's head and say to them, hey, where did you come from? And they'll always give you the right answer. And so that's the real world we're living in. It often takes multiple touches of somebody so they know and understand your brand. And there's never going to be an easy answer, but you should still be able to get a quick answer so you know where to spend and not spend your budget. Those have been my thoughts this week. Do you use mixed media modeling? Are there any tools that are better than Google Meridian? What are your tips to understanding your in real life advertising versus your online advertising? Let me know in the comments below.